Combinations and tactics and knowing when to look for them is an overlooked skill that we will look at today. Most of you have all been doing a lot of exercises, finding combinations where you know there is a combination, but it's a completely different thing to find where to look for the combination and when to look for them. And I've noticed that a lot of players that can easily solve puzzles with the combinations and tactics, they have a hard time finding the combinations in real over-the-board play. So today we're going to look at that, and that's and hopefully your motivation for watching this video will be to learn what to look for, what elements are there, when is the tactics coming and when it's not there. So when to look, what to look for, and how to look is today's topic. And we're going to use an old game I played in, I think 1997 or something, 25 years ago. So let's get into it. I am black against Heikki Westerinen, legendary Finnish grandmaster. And he started with e4, and he plays the c3 Sicilian, the Aleppin variation. And I attack the pawn here. Already tactics are coming. I'm threatening a pawn, and he attacks my knight, and I move, and he moves, and I take, and he goes here. And we see that due to the pin here, black cannot take here, because then the knight is lost. My repertoire at the time was this move, and this is maybe the best move, and he took here, and I played this move. And this was, I think, recommended by Gallagher or someone like that in one of the Beating the Anti-Sicilian books for black. And this is kind of a nice move. You get ready to develop the bishop on this diagonal, or here, and exchange the bishop on c4, this strong bishop. But it also is a little bit scary, because black has a little less space, and white does have access to some squares close to the king. Developing and attacking this great knight here that unfortunately had to go, but at the same time leaving white with a weak pawn here. Queen immediately goes in, and some people have tried and to sort of sacrifice this pawn. I don't really believe it, but I would hate him for him to do it, because I would rather have a sort of more normal way. But he defended the pawn, which must also be the best move. Bishop out, d6. Black must attack the center. If white is allowed to something like if you play too passive here, like something like this, and white is allowed to do something here, then after, for instance, this move, white is already clearly better and have a nice attack, I think, even though this might be losing, but I don't know, rook e1. Anyway, this is a dangerous position for black, because the king here is in some sort of danger all the time. So you have to be a little bit careful. That's also why it's better to attack the center immediately, getting the pieces out, and sometimes you might even go this way with the king. This is possible. Castle and knight here, and I think the main move here is to take on d6 and something like that. Another move is to play this move, which was what was the main line at the time, and which was what Heikki had apparently prepared. And I was feeling a little bit uneasy now. There is already serious threats coming here. Sometimes he can even do something like this. The queen has access here. So the topic of today is tactics and combinations, and when to look for them. And already here we are starting to look for that, because this is definitely something that will be able, that probably can come in this situation. So in this situation, I'm already aware of a lot of tactics of different kinds. We see that we have a bishop also from black pining down here, and sometimes this move is possible, and threatening mate here, that as an intermediate move. But at the moment, the weak spots here are something you have to be very careful about. But okay, a central pawn is a central pawn. Let's eliminate that. And he goes here, attacking directly on this square here, and notice that if you go knight f6, maybe that's good, maybe it's not good. It's not completely clear. You can play this move. Maybe for instance, if something like this, then maybe this check is very unpleasant, and if you do something like this, then maybe this move is possible. I don't know. Already it's very scary. So I was, but he can also probably just go back, and he will have a serious attack. So the theoretical move, and I knew that was d6, and he goes here, and here you really have to be careful, because serious threat is looming in the position. So don't take, you just gonna get blown off the board. So let's develop. This square is important, and ups, all these arrows all over the time, please. And he puts a rook in here. And by the way, I was a little bit, I thought it a little bit funny he used this rook. I thought he would use the other rook in combination with what he did later in the game. This move is in general, the idea is to play this. By the way, for black, there is that is under pressure right now, and is a little bit nervous to get blown out of the water without a fight. There are some consolation in the fact that his structure is much better. So if you don't, if you survive the middle game, you could look forward to a very nice ending where one of these pawns will be weak for sure. Here, something like this is probably totally unplayable. So nothing to do. We have to do this, covering the pawn here, and of course preventing something. He can play c5, and he did play c4. I think f4 is now what they do, and it's a very unclear position. I didn't know exactly what's going on. I have not followed this line since then. I decided, actually, I did not really like it for black, because it's not nice that white can get all his pieces into an attack just like that. So I was a little bit nervous here, and in general I like to attack more than defend. He played c4, said, okay, this bishop, we cannot have this bishop sitting here, where it's very nice. It both controls white squares and defends black's king and so on, and black is kind of in a nice structure if nothing bad happens. So you have to take. If you move, you're probably get blown away again. So taking is necessary. It's nice that we have this move to cover after rook c1. He goes here, attacking here and attacking here, and already, of course, there's a lot of tactics in the air. Here, white would have to look at all kinds of things, and this is probably all you guys out there also can see that this is a tense tactical situation where you will have to look for tactics. So what are the conditions for looking for tactics? It is a lot of pieces in small areas, overextended pieces, weak squares, weak kings, lack of coordination, lead in development, and so on. Sometimes problem with structure. And here we can see that we have a weak square here. We have the king is not really fully developed. We also have the queen that is supposed to do here, but it might also have duties otherwhere, in other places. We also have some dark squares, weaknesses here, but we also have a rather solid black structure and no bad pieces. Queen here, attacking the pawn. Of course, you will already here, you will have to look at something like this, for instance. This is a natural move to look at, and after something like this, but here you can just go back, and there's really nothing. This rook is covering this rook, so you can see that there's not. If there was a check here, of course that was not hanging, black would be totally dead, but there's not. So it all hangs together. So instead, white reverses the order and make a double attack on f7 and a8, and black can fortunately castle his way out of this. And here comes the shock, boof, because of this one. But we also see that another thing arrives in this position. This pin on the queen with the knight, and that's a little bit annoying because this knight is a little bit trapped down here. So that's another tactical element. At the moment, black is maybe threatening probably to take this one, and then the knight will be hanging. So anyway, after this move, I took here, and I was a little bit afraid of different things, and I thought this was smart just to take the pawn and maybe get this square for the. He played here, temporary fixing this problem, and I went here. I think queen c5 is just as good, and I'm ahead with 2 pawns now. But white is very threatening, and you have to look for sort of weak squares, weak king, checks. You will have to, like something like this, for instance, is something you will probably have to look at in a position like this. But it doesn't work. You just take it back. But it's something you will have to look at, and in general, you have to be very careful. Check all checks in position like this. He played this move with the pin here, and I of course had to go here, and he gave check, and king went here, and he went here, and it's still it does look like white's attack is running a little bit out of steam in this situation, but it's not quite clear yet that it's the case, and it's the king is in some dangers. There are some checks somewhere. For instance, if it's white to move here, he would go here and threaten a lot of things like bishop here, and so on. And the black king, it will not be safe for sure. So I think the computer seems to prefer something like this. Actually, just give the pawn back and say, okay, you have the bishop pair, just stabilize the position, and so on. I played this move. I like in tactical situation where you're sort of in danger. It's really nice to improve your coordination. That's important. White only have one idea. That's the idea, basically, to play this move and this move, and black's king is in some sort of trouble. You really don't want to be kicked with the king. You want to stay here on g7. So, but I prepared this move and here. And this move, and I thought I was very clever here because I'm controlling everything. I'm hitting the rook and so on, and it is not so bad. And after this move, I took here, and this is an interesting position. He could, and you have to really be tactically alert here, and this is what to look for. You have to look for tactics, and you have to calculate in positions like that, like this. That's probably pretty obvious to everyone. So what will you look for? You will look for coordination of pieces. You can see that actually the king here is devoid of squares on f6 and h6. We also see that this knight is hanging. We see this rook is hanging. This bishop is hanging. This does not create a harmonious feeling in this situation. So maybe there is something, and you could take here, and that would something I would calculate for sure. and black will have to take here, and it looks very good for black, and I thought it was very good for black because you're hitting the rook, you got to exchange more, he cannot take on c1, then he's mated and so on, and where to put the queen. But you also have to look for the intermediate move, and here white had this move that is pretty unpleasant because it's threatening the knight, and with check like this, and that would be very bad, and it's ruining my coordination. And if he's allowed to go this knight will come in here with a serious attack. Something like this is dangerous. It's but of course I think black has to play something like this, and here he will probably have to find, maybe see if this ending is not kind of okay, or if it's whatever it is, it probably is, but it's what he should have done. We will probably maybe get a queen ending with the pawn more for one of the sides. So there's a lot of things going on here, and it's kind of clear that you will have to calculate, you have to look for tactics, you have to look at positions, you have to look for coordination. This is something that is not trained in books in general. So you will have to develop this skill of intuition of when do I believe there is something here? In what situations should I look for tactics, and when will is combinations possible? This is a very difficult skill. I think Bent Larsen called it sort of prick, or whatever you call it, where it's like someone tap you on the shoulder and say, you can feel it. There's something here. There are some elements of the position that makes it certain there will be some sort of combination or tactic here. So look for it. Most of the time people don't look for it, but in a lot of situations you should actually look for it. I think Jens Enevoldsen, another Danish player, had the expression that even a blind man could feel with his stick that something will be here in this situation, and it is this kind of intuition you're looking for. Instead he played this move, which is a mistake, I believe, and so, yes, what to do now for black? We are still not finished. It's still very unclear. The rook is hanging, and this one is hanging, and this one is hanging, and the king is sort of unsafe. We were very happy he cannot give a check because it would be dangerous. Here I played this move. I think maybe this move is better. I was kind of nervous in this situation, but it seems to hold fine. But I played this move, and here again he has to think what's going on, and he should actually be able to find what I will call mathematician chess. That is when you're able to accept that several pieces are hanging, but you can only take one piece at the time. So it's like addition math piece where you're trying to find the solution. And here white should actually, he took on e6, and he's apparently not afraid of self-pinning. It was the second time he did that. He should have taken here, which I didn't see at all, to be honest. I didn't look at this move at all during the game, because but it does threaten here, and which is very unpleasant. And if I take here, he'll get here, and we'll have a very unclear position. I could probably hold on with queen f5 or something, and it's probably just unclear. But I'm definitely not winning for sure in this situation. So he played this move, which I was a little bit surprised by this move, and I think the computer really likes black here if he finds a very good move, and this is purely tactical. There are no positional considerations in this position. It's pure hardcore tactics and calculation, and you will just have to find your way here. We see that this pin, there must be some way to exploit this pin. We also see this bishop is sort of gone haywire. That's what's doing there. And this is the hard thing to see, is this knight here that is looking threatening, because it's taking away key squares from the king, and also this square. It does not have a retreat. So if we play something like this at some point, this knight will not be able to go anywhere because it will be lost. So that's also why the computer really like just taking the bishop. So doing something like this, and after this and next move you will go h5, and there are no checks because the queen took away, or anything counterattack of any kind here. So because the queen took away this square, so this is simply winning for black. H5 is coming. I didn't see this. It's very hard to see moves like h5. I think the new generation is probably much better at this than the older generation, because it's not in the range of moves you look at. But I think the new generation that's brought up with computers, they probably have a wider range of moves that is possible, or candidates. But there should be a lot of candidates in very tactical position. Instead, I played this move, which I also kind of liked. I'm just getting my bishop back, and I'm ready to play this move. I'm ready to play this move. Oops, this was one too many. And I'm also ready to play this move, maybe, because now I have this. I also have this if he goes to b7 with a check here. So this is but the problem is the bishop is not very good here. So that's that's another thing. So here comes the f pawn. Oops, because this might be a problem. But actually, he should have gone with the h pawn. That was too bad. And then if I took, he will play queen f4. I think is the best move. Or queen b7. I don't remember. He played f4, and I played this move, and I think that he should probably play something different here. He made a mistake. He played queen back. There was something better instead of that. Something like maybe be possible, and it's probably a draw, maybe, or another move could be something like this one. I have to calculate, but then maybe just rook here. But at the same time, we have this bishop that's sort of getting trapped. So so maybe something like this, and just something like this, and threaten the queen is not impossible. I don't know. He didn't do that in this position. We were in severe time trouble. It's a very complicated game. That's very typical. He played this move, and here I'm again have to calculate. My bishop is more or less trapped. It did not feel right in any way to do something like this. The bishop would be out of the game. He could take here, or he could take here. Whatever he did, it would not be very nice for me. But I found a much better solution here. I was kind of proud after the game for my solution here. So please pause the video and see if you can find a way to play for black. And this is, of course, now we're not training to see if there's combination, but in this kind of situation that's very sharp, we know you will have to find some tactics and some combinational ideas to survive in general. And I did that. I played this move, which looks kind of crazy, and he took here, and I took here. and you just have to look a few times and say, what is that going on here? So can you calculate the tactics here? And the reason I can see, as I was able to see something like this, is of course because if he takes the rook here, check. Notice that the queen is covering here, and the knight and rook is covering here. So there is only one check. There was also a check here, but then of course I could just go in between on that one. So queen check, king h8. Still, there is this queen is covering here, and this rook is covering here. So there is no checks other. And he will probably have to take here. And after this move is actually mating because it's check. And if you go between, I will mate him in 2 moves. And after this move, check, we have the very well-known smoother mate after this, like this. And this kind of theme is very common and is something I think most of you out there would be able to spot. In this situation here, you would see that, oops, I'm mating because, for instance, here, if he takes, and we're not going to take back because you will probably have perpetual check, but there's a check here and it will be made in 2 moves due to the weak back rank. And weak back rank is a very typical red flag for combinations. Queen and knight close to the king, the kill zone, as Ogod describes it, is also something that say look for combinations, see for tactics. Try to instead, when players are taking your pieces or your pawns, don't take back automatically. Look for tactics. There might be something, and this was the case here. Instead of going mate, he took the knight, but this is hopeful. And what to do now as black? Again, we have a situation I'm sure you all have tried similar, and black's move is of course very thematic. Check, queen f2, because again you are looking for this kind of tactics when there is a weak back rank. The king here is the target. We see there's a weak back rank here, and that means we are looking for tactics. We're always looking for tactics if there's a weak back rank. You should scan for them every time. Queen here cannot be taking. Mate, there's no checks. You always notice that. Check if there's in this situation, the combinations often go wrong if there is some sort of a check or intermediate move. So be careful not to allow that. King here. Okay, what then? The queen is covering everything here, so the rook is threatened, but it would be a little bit annoying to move it because then it would be attacked no matter where it moved. You don't want to give a check here because he might take back. So if you could do something like this, but then something like this is a little bit annoying. It probably winning, but it's a bit unnecessary. Instead, I can just do this move, which looks weird, but the rook was much better here. There's no checks. You're checking that. There's nothing. We have a very strong d pawn here. It's coming for you, and if it's allowed to take here, we will just queen the d pawn. He plays here, attacking here, but there's nothing to see. And I will just run away. Whenever I get to, I think, b6, there will be no more checks, and the d pawn will queen, or I will play something like this. Probably I will take and play this and queen with d1. So this was a typical example of when to look for combination. And in this game, it was more or less all the time. There were tactics all over the place. There were combinations all over the place. You have to be alert. But in general, there are a lot of things you should look for. So whenever you start to feeling some sort of just a little bit of disharmony in the opponent's forces or in your own, start to look for combinations. And this ability is something you should train all the time. When you're going through the games, and you realize, oh, I'm the computer, and it's relentless. It just tells you missed the combination or the tactics again, and you're sitting there. But I've been training forever in these combinations and tactics, and the thing is, you've been training when they were there, but sometimes they're not there, and sometimes they're there. So you have to learn to look for them when they might be there. This was DM Talks. I hope you liked this video. It was a little bit different. We had a lot of empathy on on tactics and combinations, which in general we are more strategically inclined here on DM Talks, because there's a lot of players with fancy tactics out there. But I think it's a very important topic. This learning to spot when to look for tactics, not only to learn to solve tactics, but also when to look for them. This was DM Talks. Thank you for watching.